Good morning, guys. It is Sunday, my dudes. And the plan for today is to try our first Savage raid, which will be interesting. See how that goes. Good morning, Zam, and everyone else that's joining us. How are you, Sam? Right. 12 o'clock was the meet time, so that's in about half an hour. Hey, Hib, how you doing? Good to see you, mate. I'm good. Definitely feeling a bit burnt out after the last few days. Just not as good as they could have been, but I'm okay. Hello, 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 Rexel and Hib as well. Burned out. Just literally just, you know, when you just go, do you know what? I just want to sleep for like a few days. That's it. So. Ugh. But yes, welcome in everyone. I'm excited for you to get killed by Cat. Talk to my friends this fight. Yeah, we should get some food and coffee. Yeah, get yourself all prepped. Yeah, we're gonna go in with, like, the idea is that, ooh, money. We go in, we give it some attempt, see how we get on. There's part of me that's not expecting a clear today, but it's fine. We're gonna have fun. That's the main thing. We will have a good time. But yeah, I hope everyone's had a good weekend. So, people yelled at you a lot. Well, you know, just don't mess up and it's fine. Nah, it'll be fine. We're gonna have a good time. That's the right one. That's the main thing. We're going to go out there, have a good time. No, not too much stress, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So, yeah, got a coffee. So, Gabby just needs to heal harder, right? Exactly. Exactly. If he doesn't heal hard enough, we know who to blame. So. Okay, well, that one was wrong. Took me a few attempts to get my clear. The friend that I taught got in one session, but I think I was a good teacher. Positive encouragement goes a long way. It does, honestly. That's the thing. We're not going to stand for any bullshit of people being dickheads. It's all about positive encouragement. Let's see what we do. Like, if anything, I feel like I'm the one that's going to let everyone down. I'm feeling absolutely fried today. So, but we'll do what we can, you know? So, peace and love only, exactly. Slept like dog shit. I slept like dog shit. And I just haven't been, you know when you're just not feeling like right. The last few days. It's kind of been me. Right, they're just having lunch and I'll be on. Yeah, no worries, no worries. I said 12, and I was expecting 12 to be like our meet point. It's not. 12's our meet point, so it was just it was easier if I was live a little bit so we can catch up a bit first. So, good to see you, good to see you. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for coming and joining this morning. You're on Crystal and it's dead silent. Well, we are on Crystal. We are EU. And to be honest, I think Crystal's NA, if I'm correct. It's Sunday morning. I would expect it to be quite quiet that time of day, honestly. But it's normally, even on EU mornings, it's a little bit quiet. Crystal is NA? Yeah. From no place. Yeah, I'd expect something like that to be quite quiet at this time of day. Sunday morning at whatever time it is in the NA, that will do it. NA, but my school schedule has me on nocturnal type shit. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the like. If I was doing the same thing in a EU schedule and being up in the middle of the night, I'm sure it would do the same thing. The problem is those kind of days are just not the ideal one for raiding or much social activity, especially if you're after like one specific activity as well. I want ash lumber to prompt rivets. That doesn't need. Do you have this? No. New Zealand? No, EU. We are EU. Let's get rid of that one. So if we get this. There we go. 3 AM your time, so like 5 AM East Coast. Yeah, high potential of just not a lot happening, right? Those times of days, I'd expect that. People are asleep in NA. Potentially. Right. They're not going to be playing Helia. It depends on people's picks. Well, I will say I am feeling pretty fried today. So what we'll do is if I for some reason don't end up feeling like I can continue with the stream, because I'm feeling pretty, do you know what, bleh today. We'll do as much as we can. You guys continue on without me and doing the Savage, because I just can't Should be okay. We'll see, but I don't want to say yeah and then I'm not. I'm just feeling absolutely fried the last few days and I don't know why. So, but we'll give it a good go. Don't want to let us down on what we're doing. Her data center hopping to get queue times. Data center downtimes. I mean, most of it is just like you can data center hop, but the problem is with a lot of it is majority of the time you're still going to end up in the same time zone. So hey Pocus, how you doing? What I am going to do, because I ain't feeling too great, I am actually going to kill the camera for this one, so TikTok. Oh. Tough night. I'm not feeling very great, if I'm perfectly honest. Just a bit burnt out, but we've got a raid to do. We've got to get on with this, so. Yeah, I want to do this, but I'm definitely feeling a little bit burnt today. It's not even a hangover. It's just generally I've just hit a burnout point. I don't know why. The idea is to play Reaper. Let's go with that. Yeah, definitely just right, we won. Hopefully we can have some smooth runs. Been looking through guides of M1. It's not horrible, but I do see a few points are bound to mess up a few times until we get it right. Yeah, like it's... There's a few bits on it that are a little bit tricky, but I think it's just going to be a lot of trial and error. That's all it's going to be, is trial and error at the moment. So see how that goes. Let's hand this in. Two. Oh dear. Right. Careful with guides because not everyone uses the same strats. I'll explain to everyone everything. I'm going to read the raid plan. Prior knowledge. Well, the only what we have is the general video. Where is it? Or was it? Because this one definitely helps.
Tiles are destroyed.
Just giving you a bit of info on how to go through. Hey Jade, how you doing?
Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for AAC Light Heavyweight M1 Savage, also known as M1S. This is the first new Savage raid made available in Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. My name is Miztech and I'll be your raid guide. Before we begin, the raid will need to be split into 2 light parties, and partner pairs should be assigned with players of the opposite role group. These assignments will be used throughout the encounter for multiple mechanics. Quadruple Crossing is a 4-part attack that will occur throughout the encounter. The first 2 attacks will target the 4 closest players to the boss with these conal attacks. The boss will then duplicate the first 2 hits on the ground in the same area that they originally hit. To handle this, assign 4 players to take the first hit by moving close to the boss, while the other 4 sit at max melee range. After that first hit, the next set of players will move in to bait the next attack, while the original set of players moves away. All players will then have to dodge the area that the first 2 attacks were baited in. There are multiple ways to do this depending on where you choose to bait the first 2 attacks, so do what works best for your group. Biscuit Maker is a 2-part tank buster that will target the primary target. The first part will deal high damage and apply a slashing resist down debuff. This is followed by a second hit that deals massive damage. Tanks will need to swap enmity during the cast and take both hits with cooldowns, or simply use an immunity to solo both hits. The boss will then cast 9 lives, splitting her soul and giving her the ability to spawn adds that can replicate her abilities. 1-2 Paw is a 2-part attack that will target the 2 halves of the room with a cleave based on the boss's glowing side. Players will need to identify which claws are glowing and move to the opposite side of the boss to dodge that first hit. Immediately after, they'll need to move to the other side to avoid the second hit. Next up, the boss will begin to cast Soul Shade. This will spawn 2 adds on the platform, with one always facing through the center of the room and the other at an angle. These adds will replicate the same 1-2 Paw pattern of attack the boss just cast, and players will need to find the safe spot formed by the overlapping attacks. As soon as the first hit goes off, they'll need to adjust to the opposite safe spot to avoid the second hit. As this is happening, the boss will cast another 9 lives and then either quadruple swipe or double swipe. If she's casting quadruple swipe, all players will need to stand in their assigned pairs around the boss to share the incoming damage that will target all players of a role group. If she's casting double swipe, the players will need to split into their assigned light parties to share the incoming damage on 2 players. The boss will cast Soul Shade again, spawning another ad. This ad will spawn sleeping and will not be active for some time. Immediately after, a large pink arrow marker will appear on the platform and the boss will begin to cast Leaping Quadruple Crossing. Right before the cast completes, the boss will leap to the arrow marker and Quadruple Crossing will go off from that spot. This can be baited in the same way as stationary Quadruple Crossing, or you can adjust your bait order to facilitate things like melee uptime, as we do here. Whichever way you choose to bait, make sure to dodge the 2 follow-up attacks in the same spot after. As you're dodging the final attack, the Soul Shade ad will copy the previous Quadruple Swipe or Double Swipe attack, and players will need to either stack in their light party groups or meet up with their partner in the available safe area. Bloody Scratch will deal massive raid-wide damage. Shield and heal as necessary. Next up, the boss will jump to the center and cast Mouser. The tiles will begin to flash red, indicating that they will soon be hit by the boss, cracking it in the process. Any tile that flashes red twice will be destroyed, and players will need to avoid these areas or fall to their death. To handle this, focus on the 4 inner tiles, as 2 will always survive, regardless of the boss's pattern of attack. Watch the red flashes very closely and move into the single hit tiles once the attack starts to go off. Once all of the tiled attacks have gone off, some tiles will be repaired to form a 2x4 platform. As this is happening, the boss is casting Copycat, and a clone will appear on the edge of the platform. This copy will target all 4 players of one role group with Elevate and Eviscerate, an attack that will either slam them into the tile that they're standing on or knock them a set distance forward, cracking the tile that they eventually land on. If the Copycat is standing up and their left paw is glowing, the attack will slam the player into the tile that they're standing on. If the Copycat is crouching down and the right paw is glowing, the attack will launch the player into the air and forward a set distance. Both of these attacks will also blast through all of the tiles in a cross pattern from the tile of attack. To handle this, the players targeted by the copycat will need to use the fresh tiles to take their attacks. We reserve the inner fresh tiles for melee players and the 2 outer tiles for ranged. Once they are marked up, the player will move into their assigned tile to wait out the attack. With this positioning, each player can position in the corner of their tile, facing towards the center of that tile. This takes the extra step of having to look at the copycat to identify what kind of attack is coming and having to reposition appropriately, and also allows the rest of the raid to move diagonally of the affected tile to avoid the cross pattern blast. From this position in the corner of the tile, players targeted by the thrown attack will end up landing inside of the same tile, since the boss will jump directly behind them to throw them forward a set distance. Just make sure you're facing the exact center of the tile so you don't accidentally go flying off at the wrong angle. Once all 4 attacks go off, the copycat will disappear and the boss will cast another Biscuit Maker Tank Buster. The boss will then cast Shockwave, a knockback, as the remainder of the platform begins to reform. 2 opposite corners will form faster, and the group will need to align themselves with these corners to avoid getting knocked off the platform. All players will then be targeted by these Grimalkin Gale circle markers, and they'll need to spread to avoid overlap immediately following the knockback. Next up, the boss will cast 9 lives, followed by Leaping 1-2 Paw. Players will need to identify which side of the boss the attack is beginning on, and adjust around the arrow marker to dodge the 2 attacks once the boss jumps. The direction the boss jumps and the order of attack will all be copied over to the next Soul Shade ad that spawns, and players will need to memorize this pattern for later. This first ad will spawn sleeping in either the north or south of the center, and will not activate for some time. The boss will again cast 9 lives, followed by Leaping Quadruple Crossing. Players will need to bait and dodge the 4 rounds of attacks around the arrow marker the boss leaps to. Again, players will need to memorize this movement and attack pattern, as it will be copied over to the next Soul Shade ad. At this point, the boss will target the first Soul Shade ad that spawned, and players will need to pre-position to anticipate the copied 1-2 Paw attack that will soon go off. At the same time, the boss will cast Tempestuous Tear, targeting 2 players with lineup markers. The raid will need to split into their assigned light parties and share the incoming damage within the appropriate safe area for the ad's attack, before moving to the opposite side to avoid the second hit. Once the copied attack goes off, this ad will disappear and the raid can pre-position for the second ad attack. During this time, 4 players of a role group will be targeted by Nail Chipper with these orange markers. These players will need to move away from the boss to avoid baiting the first set of incoming quadruple crossing attacks, as these attacks cannot overlap. Once this first attack goes off, the remaining 4 players will be targeted with another round of Nail Chipper markers, while the original group moves in to bait the second set of quadruple crossing attacks. Make sure to dodge the next 2 sets of attacks as necessary. This second ad will then disappear and the boss will cast another Bloody Scratch AoE blast, followed by the start of another Mouser mini phase. Identify the safe tiles and stand on them while the rest of the tiles are destroyed. The boss will again cast Copycat, and the 4 players of the opposite role group that was targeted during the first Mouser mini phase will need to prepare to handle the incoming Elevate and Eviscerate attacks. These attacks are handled in the same manner, only this time the rest of the raid will also be dealing with Overshadow, a lineup marker on a random player, or Splintering Nails, a 3-part attack that targets 1 damage dealer, 1 healer, and 1 tank with a conal attack at the same time. For Overshadow, the raid will need to line up in a safe tile to share the incoming blast. For Splintering Nails, the raid will need to spread within the safe tile by role. To keep things consistent, we have the tanks on the left edge of the tile, the healers in the middle, and the damage dealers on the right edge. This ensures enough spacing to avoid overlap of the attacks regardless of whom it targets. Once all 4 attacks go off, the boss will again cast a Biscuit Maker Tank Buster, followed by another Shockwave knockback. Line yourself up with the fast forming corners to avoid getting knocked off, and then spread to avoid overlapping the Gale Circle attacks. Next up, the boss will form 2 passable tethers on 2 random players and begin to cast Raining Cats. The players with tethers will be targeted by large conal attacks that also apply slashing resist down debuffs that persist for some time. The closest and furthest players to the boss will also be targeted by shareable damage that will apply a magic resist up debuff that lasts 3 seconds. These attacks will occur 4 times in a row. An easy way to handle this is to assign 2 damage dealers to take the first round of tethers to the left and right in front of the boss, while the rest of the raid splits into 2 groups to share the incoming damage behind the boss. After the first combo, the 2 tanks will swap positions with those damage dealers, grabbing the tethers in the process. From this point on, the tanks can use an immunity to handle the remaining 2 tether attacks, while the rest of the raid shares the incoming damage behind the boss.
Not gonna lie, I am feeling a bit too fried for this. thought I'd be able to get through it, but I'm feeling absolutely burnt out. I've slept like shit the last few days and just not generally feeling pretty good. Really was hoping to be able to do this, but I am feeling absolutely awful. So, unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to do this. What I recommend is use the Discord and you guys finish up the raid and get someone else in or a party finder, because I am absolutely not feeling this at all. So, sorry guys. I will leave you to it, but yeah, sorry about this. Definitely just feeling a bit burnt out, and even watching that video is making me just go, ugh. So, I'm going to go I'll be back in a couple of